And so I'm going to invite Dr. MAHLAY to speak about latest thrombosis treatment and prevention in acute trauma patients. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm an internal medicine doctor. I just kind of wanted to talk. I go to Ukraine, and I'm always battling the surgeons, so because I'm overwhelmed by too many surgeons, because obviously we know what the problem is in Ukraine. So I'm going to be talking about venous thromboembolism risk and prevention. No disclosures. Oh, the other thing I want to mention, so when I was at University Hospitals of Cleveland, I had a team. You get your information together and you give it to them. They do the PowerPoint presentation. Now I don't have a team of one. One thing that we keep on forgetting is that the trauma patients have a very high risk for thromboembolism, which includes DVTs, PEs, especially when we do not give the prophylaxis. Initiation prophylaxis should be balanced between the bleeding, concerns of the bleeding, and thrombus formation. When these patients come in, we're so focused on the acute problems and the bleeding. We're always worried about bleeding, and you put all this time investing in taking care of the acute problem, and then 3, 5, 10 days later, we have a thrombus, which obviously affects morbidity, mortality. The guidelines for these trauma patients, there's recommendations, but the clinical practice vary very widely, especially in the high risk. And the biggest concerns are always the traumatic brain injuries and the solid organ injuries, since we really do not have standardization. Looking at the risk factors, National Trauma Bank data. There's the odds ratios. You look, ventilator days, anything over 3 days, significantly higher risk. Venous injuries, age over 40, lower extremity fractures, major operative procedures, and head injuries. In the Greenfield risk assessment profile, anything over 4 transfusions significantly increases the risk. Glasgow Coma score, less than 8 for more than 4 hours. Pelvic fractures, 2-hour operations, and again, age. If you look at the graph here, you see this has the horizontal line there. It goes up to 50 days. Significant risk factors for the VTE. Depending on the injuries, but you could have from 12 to 60% risk. If you look at the prevalence, it's over 30. Incidence, think about it, 18% patient week. You can think maybe every week 1/5 of the patients will have thrombus, especially when you're not watching for that. Other independent risk factors, venous, central venous catheters, medullary injuries, low systolic blood pressure, pelvic fracture. I'm going over this fast. I know we're also short on time. Prophylaxis impact. You could reduce the risk by DVT risk, at least by half, by giving some type of preventative measures. If you look at the relative risk, just by giving mechanical prophylaxis, it's 0.43. Pharmacological versus mechanical, also 0.48. Low molecular weight heparin versus unfractionated heparin, 0.68. And this is also, people are unaware of this, that having the combination on pharmacomechanical prophylaxis versus pharmacological prophylaxis alone, it's 0.34. I think what I really want to get at is we should not be forgetting about this issue with thromboembolism. What do we use? Low molecular weight heparin, way favored over unfractionated heparin due to safety and efficacy. Why? Low molecular weight heparin, better bioavailability, longer half-life, more effective against 10A, less effect on platelets, less effect on microvascular permeability, and less HIT, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. We always try to push that this prophylaxis should start within 24 hours of the injury if there's no contraindication. The dosage, recommended dosage, low molecular weight heparin, enoxaparin, 40 milligrams every 12 hours, 40 milligrams. There's no reason to be doing any monitoring. You need to think about it once you start it. It only gets to that correct state at 28 hours. The dosage, again, is again, like I said, 40 milligrams every 12 hours. When do you adjust the dose? Only in severely obese patient where you're going to have to increase it. I don't think that's a major issue in Ukraine. When you have a creatinine clearance less than 30, then you drop down to 30 milligrams only once a day. Also in patients with renal function impairment, over 65 years old, and a body weight of less than 50 kilograms, you lower it to 30 milligrams every 12 hours. There's also adjustment for pregnancy. One of the biggest problems is that we're missing doses. People are always worried about bleeding, and they hold the medication. When there's no major surgeries, for minor surgery, you should be able to be giving the prophylactic dose. Delay of ordering, clinical awareness gaps, patients off the floor, they forget. You miss one dose of the low molecular heparin, you basically lose a day. The high-risk situations, again, this is related to the traumatic brain injuries, solid organ injuries, spinal cord injuries. If you look at some of the recommendations, like for example, the Western Trauma Association, they believe that you can start the prophylaxis 24 hours if you have clinical stability and some type of imaging that shows that there's stability. Another group here was 48 hours you can start. We also need to, everybody should be on the mechanical VTE prophylaxis. There's only one reason not to if there's a problem with that extremity and that's contraindicated. But everybody should be on the mechanical. So if you have a high bleeding risk, you already start them on the mechanical. And then you should be thinking how you can, as soon as possible, start the pharmacological. At times people were giving IVC filters for prevention. There is no consensus for placing those filters. And if you end up placing a filter, you need to remove it as soon as possible. Direct oral anticoagulants. There is no prophylactic indication for that. You only use that for treatment after hospitalization. Previously, people were using aspirin for prophylaxis at 81 milligrams BID. There was one study, the clot study, which was comparing that to enoxaparin, 30 milligrams BID, but that dosage of 30 is the incorrect dosage, and 230, comparing it to 30, it was just showed that it's not inferior. Surveillance, people are doing surveillance to look for DVTs. There's no reason to be doing that also, just added costs. The only thing that I would want to add or comment on this, if you suspect any type of thrombus, you need to do some type of objective scanning. Again, there's a lot of details we can go in. I have 10 minutes to do all this, but I just want to also going over the traumatic brain injury. Another TQIP discussed about starting it by 72 hours. So going over what I've been talking about, so there's studies or recommendations at 24 hours, 48, 72. Once you get to 72 and the patient is stable both clinically and subjectively, clinically, and objectively, we should be starting the pharmacological prophylaxis. Okay, key takeaways. High VTE risk in trauma. We need to be thinking about it. The patient rolls into the hospital. We have to already be thinking about it, writing orders, and keeping an eye on that. We need to start low molecular heparin initiation as soon as possible. For low bleeding risk, they should be on combination of pharmacomechanical VTE prophylaxis. And in high bleeding risk, they should all be on mechanical VTE prophylaxis if there is no contraindications for the extremity, and start the pharmacological VTE prophylaxis. And again, it's going to be a judgment call, but somewhere in that 24 to 72 hours, we should be initiating that. Thank you.